baby. Hello and welcome to Yarn to Table. I'm Celeste and this is the show about my knitting life. It has been a little while since my last episode, so I'm feeling a bit out of practice, and I'm also going without notes today, so I'm just kind of want to freeform, sort of just talk about what feels important to me at the moment, catch you up on my knitting. So apologies if it's a little looser than normal. There's also probably lots of lawnmower and bird sounds in the background, but I rather like it. Hopefully you guys feel the same. I'm gonna call it atmosphere. You know, spring is in full force here. It's the middle of May. It is finally not cold anymore, and everything is blooming. And as some of you may already know, if you follow me on Instagram, and some of you may have suspected just from my slightly longer than often planned hiatus between episodes, I have been working on making something else recently, which is a baby. So I never really know how to show these because I feel like no one knows what they're looking at, but nonetheless, sonogram's kind of the universal image for we're pregnant, right? So there it is. Actually, I do know this is from 8 weeks. I'm 11 weeks now, so baby's quite a bit bigger. But this little blob is the baby. That's the head, and that's what they call the rump. And they measure it, when you talk about how big it is, they measure it from head to rump up until at some point it starts to stretch out more, and you can measure the full height like you would any other person. But yeah, at 8 weeks, I'm not sure it even had much in the way of legs and arms. I think just was starting to sprout, possibly. It's hard to remember. It was 3 weeks ago. But yes! This is our ultrasound for my very first visit. I am due December 7th, and like I said, I'm 11 weeks now, so I'm approaching the end of my first trimester. And as I had heard, in fact, from many other knitters here on the interwebs, the first trimester, whoo, it's a thing. Ooh, it can be difficult. I think honestly I probably got off a lot easier than a lot of people. I definitely have had nausea. I'm still managing nausea, but not as crazy as what I've heard some people go through. For me, the biggest challenge is just the general exhaustion, which I think peaked just recently, and I feel like I'm getting a little bit more energy back as I approach the second trimester, so fingers crossed on that one. But all of that is to say, obviously that's a big part of why I haven't recorded. For one thing, just not having the energy and being a little bit busier with baby prep stuff. But also I have been not knitting as much, which again is a common refrain that you hear from the pregnant knitters in the first trimester. It is funny how something, knitting doesn't seem particularly labor intensive. That said, sometimes I would just be so tired. I mean, most of the time I would just be so tired. I would come home, I'd barely be able to make dinner, and then I would just want to lie down, and I didn't even want to sit to knit. I just wanted to lie down. So I have, I would say more days than not in the last 3 months. I have I've not knit on more days than I have knit, is what I'm trying to say. That said, since we've had a bit of a longer space between episodes, I still have some stuff to share with you. I finished my sweater that I was working on the last time you saw me. I started a new one. I made some baby socks in the interim. And I've also got a few baby upcoming plans and yarn to share with you, and some books, baby books and books on pregnancy that I wanted to share that I have read / am reading. And I started a new sweater. Did I say that? Also, you may have noticed the change to the backdrop that I've added my beautiful northeasterly back there, which is a baby blanket that I made with my friend Melissa's amazing pattern, which I'm sure you're familiar with if you haven't been living under a rock. So I've added that on top of the Stephen West Meandering shawl back there. This whole situation, though, this room that I'm recording in right now is my office, and it's going to be the baby's room. So we will be having a whole overhaul and a change of location at some point coming up, which is a little bit bittersweet. I'm crazy excited about transforming this into the baby's room, and of course I'm like minorly stressed about like having such a big thing to do, but and also just sort of figuring out where to make space for me and my knitting and our things, and then all of the baby things that we need to get. The 2 changing stations, because we have a 3-story house, and the 2 diaper pails, and the 2, the bouncer swing situation, and do you have something that you can carry up and downstairs, or do you need 2 of those? And that's all stuff that I'm figuring out right now. So many of you know I like to stay on the kind of minimalist side of things, but I also feel like I need to a certain extent, take other people's advice on what you need with a baby, because some things that I probably think that you don't need, maybe I will be in for a rude awakening. So I'm trying to do my research and plan on that. And anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So I will say just sort of some housekeeping for the show. If you're not familiar, we have a group on Ravelry that you can find by clicking the link in the doobly-doo or searching Yarn to Table. And that's where you'll find show notes for every episode and the like. And also you can follow me on Instagram if you don't already, and on Ravelry. I'm at Celeste Full in both places. And then coming up, so let's see, it's mid-May now. I'm expecting to have another episode, and then at the end of June, we will be heading out to New England for my graduation. I have basically finished my MFA, but I still have to give a seminar and do a reading and participate in the graduation ceremony, which is all next month in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So we're going to go and do that, and then we're going to drive up to Portland, Maine for our little, it's like a baby moon now, but it had been planned before as a post-graduation relaxing kind of summer getaway. So I will be well into the 2nd trimester and hopefully feeling fine, and fingers crossed fewer food aversions, because right now I can't eat avocado, and let me tell you, that's weird. There's not been a moment in my life previous to now when I didn't want to be eating an avocado. Like at any given hour of any day for the last 30 years, if you said, would you like avocado, I would have said yes. And right now I don't want avocado, and it really makes you question your identity on a fundamental level. So Portland's a big food city. I already know that I can't eat raw oysters for pregnancy safety reasons, which I'm crazy bummed about. But I'm just hoping that I don't decide I hate lobster or something out of nowhere. So you roll with the punches. This is what pregnancy is. You know, it's probably obvious, but I feel like in all of this, what I failed to mention is just, I'm sure you know, but just the overwhelming gratitude and joy that we feel. We have been wanting to have a baby for a really long time, and we have been putting it off for very practical reasons. I wanted to finish school first. I've been, changing jobs and just various things. We got to this point in our lives where, we wanted to feel really, really ready. And just because that's a choice doesn't mean it's not hard to wait. It has been really hard to wait. We have been so looking forward to this, and I know that it's not a guarantee. Fertility and because we know other people's stories, we were fully prepared for it to take a while to get pregnant, which is why we started a little while before I actually graduated. We basically started at the point where we were like, this is the earliest we can start and be responsible to where I won't get pregnant too early, but we fully expected. They say try for up to a year before you see a fertility specialist. So that's considered completely normal and like nothing unusual going on. And we expected, you could have fertility problems. Plenty of people do. And we definitely, I think we always kind of hedged in the sense that when we discussed our future baby, we would talk about, that could be ours biologically, or it could be one that we adopted. I think we've just always pictured any range of possibilities. And so to get pregnant so quickly, it was just not fully what we expected and just feels amazing. And I think I'm still completely overwhelmed with happiness and gratitude. I haven't felt such sustained happiness for such a long period in my life that I can remember. And there's obviously fear mixed in, which I've been managing and, deciding to announce when we did, which a lot of people, especially I know in America, there's sort of a standard of like 12 weeks, which is the end of the first trimester. And it is when rates of miscarriage become very low, although there's no like special magic thing about the number 12. But I don't know, we were so happy, and we wanted to share with people, and I started to feel like I needed to kind of push away the fear, and also I've been kind of starting to show, and I really, wanted to tell people at work and all that kind of thing. I thought people were starting to suspect because I wasn't drinking and I was feeling sick. I work in an ad agency, so we drink together fairly frequently. So that's why people at work actually noticed, when no one in my social life noticed that I wasn't drinking, but people in my office did. So, yeah, okay. So many tangents, but there's a lot to talk about, guys. So yeah, that's my rambly, those are my feelings. And thank you, by the way, everyone who has shown your support and given your congratulations over Instagram already. It really, really made my heart feel full and just warm and supported and loved, and I appreciate you guys so much. Okay, so moving along to the knitting. Last time you saw me, I was working on this Kerrytown pullover out of the Nightshades collection, and gosh, it probably is not going to do these cables any justice at all. Yeah, because it's so dark. Maybe if I come up here, can you kind of see them? There you go. So that'll blow out the color, but you can see the cables better. So it's got this beautiful cable down the front, articulated rib, 2 braids on the sides, drop shoulder. And this is actually my first time knitting an entirely flat sweater. So I knit the front and the back in totally separate pieces, and then I knit the sleeves as separate pieces, and then I seamed everything. And I really enjoyed that because I liked that you had like smaller bits that you were holding on to instead of having this enormous sweater, especially when you're knitting something oversized and boxy like this in DK weight. Like if I had this entire thing on the needles just working on a sleeve, I really hate that. It's really the downside of seamless construction. Upside being that you don't have to seam and that you can try on as you go. Now for me, I was never particularly worried about the seaming because I don't really mind seaming, and I felt confident in my ability to do it. But the not trying on as you go got a little tricky for me when it came to the sleeves, and that is because it is written for 3/4 length sleeves, but given that it's a DK woolly wool, I decided that I really wanted full length sleeves because that was just sort of the kind of sweater that this felt like to me. So I was knitting these. After a certain point, I just continued to do the decreases. And you can probably even see that it looks like it gets quite a bit narrow here, and that is because it does. And I can't exactly rip back because I knit the sleeves flat. I did not knit them in the round. Cool. Yeah, good idea, Celeste. So they do get a little tight. Now, when I'm wearing it, it's not something that you really see or notice. There is enough room there. But they're tight enough that I can't really push up my sleeves. And that kind of bothers me because, again, with a really warm sweater like this, a lot of times I'll get a tiny bit overheated, and pushing up my sleeves helps to let off some of my body heat. So I'm a little annoyed with this, and I still don't know how much it's going to bother me because I have not had a chance to wear this sweater yet. I did finish it just as spring was starting, and then after that we did get a couple more pretty cold days, but for various reasons I was not able to wear this on those days. Like one of them, for example, I was going to get a blood test, and like I said, I can't roll up the sleeves, so I didn't want to wear this because I needed to be able to roll them up all the way to above my elbow. Yeah, so I just haven't had a chance to wear it. I've tried it on, of course. I blocked it and everything, and it is ready to go, and I am super excited to wear it in the fall. Because it's boxy, it's going to be able to fit over my bump in the fall, which is exciting. I actually have so many boxy styles because I just like them, including this one here, my Davis, my linen summer knit that I made last year, which is going to fit over my second trimester bump. It might be a little short eventually. I have learned that you kind of need that length to go over the bump as well as the width. But given that it's a summer top, I probably won't be wearing it after the second trimester anyway, so I'm hoping I can wear it all the way through the summer. And my Tanya, and also the one I'm knitting right now, my Marettimo, is also a boxy style. So I just love those anyway, and kind of nice that you can wear them with a bump. But yeah, so I love this style. I love this yarn. Smells amazing, looks amazing. If you are unfamiliar with the Nightshades collection, it's these shades that are basically black with an undercurrent of a color, and so this is has the undercurrent of the red. I think it's called Fever Dream. But my big complaint about this pattern, and I'm only mentioning it because, you know, I'm not trying to like drag an independent pattern designer or anything like that, and it's a beautiful pattern that I enjoyed knitting, but I just want to warn off semi-newbie / semi-nervous knitters, people who want to be guided, don't want to figure things out for themselves, that I kind of had some issues with the way this was written, in that when you get up to places like the neck and shoulder shaping, it tells you, you know, knit for this many inches and then start decreasing for this many inches. And I really think you need to tell people that in rows when you're dealing with a pattern that has repeats like this articulated rib, so that people can make sure that they know that they're doing it evenly and that they're doing it the same on both sides. Because I would decrease on the one shoulder, and then I would come over and decrease on the other shoulder, and I needed to know that the decreases were lining up with this, so they were cutting out the right part of the cable down the front. And the way that the pattern was written, it just didn't give me any of that information, and I really had to figure it all out for myself, almost as if I were the person writing the pattern, which I just don't think is very cool for a pay-for pattern. Like, I don't think that designing a sweater is just about finding a beautiful cable motif and then putting it onto a shape and then kind of like telling people the general guidelines of how you did that. Because I can figure that out myself. I feel like if I'm paying for a pattern, I'm definitely paying for the intellectual property of just the idea. Okay, and so that's fair. That's a big part of it. But I think generally I also expect for the math on things like that to have been test knit and figured out, and to give me the information that I need so that I can just follow the instructions. Like I said, it's, you know, I have the ability to figure it out myself, but not every knitter feels confident doing that. And I can see how if you knit this entire front panel and then when you started doing the neck, if you didn't feel confident figuring it out for yourself, that could be incredibly frustrating. So that's just my warning. Would not recommend this for newbies, but I would recommend it for anyone who doesn't have a problem with that, because it is a very, very gorgeous sweater. And I mean, obviously what you're paying for is the creativity of the designer to sort of the sketch, the idea, the putting the ribs here and this cable here and the drop sleeve and the split hem. I mean, all of those are her decisions, and they went together to create a gorgeous sweater, and that's really what you're paying for. But it's not going to hold your hand, and I think, you know, generally it can be kind of a toss-up knowing how much your hand is going to be held with an independent pattern designer, because some of them, their instructions are just as clear as what you might get with something like a Brooklyn Tweed, where it really gives you just all the information you could ever ask for. But other times I think, you know, maybe maybe they're new to writing patterns, or it's one of their first ones or whatever, and they just don't give you as much information as you might have expected. So just something to keep in mind if you are still a little bit uncomfortable with figuring things out for yourself. Yeah, but cannot wait to wear this. I think it's going to get so much love in my closet starting the fall. Now, once I finish that, some of you may remember I am doing monogamous knitting this year, and I am still totally on board with that. I have been true to it. Been a little tempted lately to set aside my sweater that I'm working on, or my top, my garment, to make some more small baby things for instant gratification. But I'm not going to. I want to make them, but I want to stay focused and get this sweater done. I would like to wear it this summer. Like I said, it has room for the bump. It's a summer garment. I'd really like to wear it on vacation when we go to Massachusetts and Maine. So my goal right now, you know, I started this new sweater a little while ago, and I am maybe halfway done with it. And normally I could knit something like that quite faster, but like I said, I'm not knitting nearly every night, or even for very long periods when I do. So my goal now is to get it finished in the next month so that I can wear it on vacation. And then on vacation, and probably for the bulk of the summer, I can focus on baby knits because they are small, and so they're not gonna like fill up your lap when it's hot outside. You know, it'll be kind of perfect. So I'll get one sweater done for myself, do a bunch of baby knits in the summer. This is my plan, subject to change, as I may at some point decide I'm really into something else. And then by the end of summer, hopefully I've gotten enough baby knits done that I can dedicate myself to doing a cardigan for myself, or something along those lines. But I'm thinking maybe a cardigan, something that I can wear with the bump if I finish it before I give birth, but also something that would be cozy and comfy over the winter on my postnatal body and, you know, into the future. I'm not a big cardigan person. I tend to be really drawn toward pullovers because I love the style, but I feel like the practicality of a cardigan is something that I could really go for, and there are a lot of really pretty ones that that I've been looking at. So all that's subject to change because, you know, the big thing with this monogamous knitting for me is that it is about casting on what I'm excited about in that moment and then staying committed to it, and then, you know, trying not to get bogged down with my planning for the future. So even though that's sort of what I'm anticipating wanting to do, I'm keeping it all kind of very open because the whole thing with the monogamous knitting is to make it more joyful to me and to get stressed out less about multiple whips and too many things on the horizon that I'm planning to knit. So when I finished the Kerrytown, I wanted to make another garment for myself, but I took a little interlude to knit some more baby socks. And so I knit on those, and then when I finished those, I moved on to the garment. All very monogamous-like. And so the baby socks that I have knit, and first, don't freak out when you see how feminine some of them are. We still don't know the baby's sex, though we do plan to find out. I have knit some socks that are probably too feminine for a boy, and I'm just okay with that. If it turns out we're having a boy, I might need to knit a few more pair that are a little more gender neutral, and then possibly save the other ones for the potential that we might have a girl at some point. I basically just knitted the socks that I thought were cute, and I'm going to try not to get too upset if they don't work out for this baby. We are, you know, obviously most people probably have their, I mean, maybe some people don't, but I think a lot of people have their preference for like what sex they're hoping for. And Ryan and I both would love to have a girl and have kind of pictured ourselves with a girl. But if we find out we're having a boy, any disappointment in that is going to be a drop in the bucket compared to the joy that we have at just the fact that we're having a baby. So I am not particularly worried about that. But that said, like, I'm drawn towards some girly things, and I have knit some girly socks, just with the idea that I might, at least at some point, have a girl, if not this baby. So we'll see how that goes. The first socks that I knit, so I used some leftovers from this gorgeous, gorgeous yarn from the Stress Knits advent calendar, which I mostly used up in my Northeasterly. And this is one of my very favorite colorways from it. It has this sort of light speckling and these darker purple pops on the lavender. And I was very silly and knit this sock completely without really thinking about whether I could get two socks out of it. And so I didn't knit contrast heels, cuffs, or toes. And so when it came time to knit the second one, I couldn't even get away with just doing a contrast heel or toe. I had to do this yarn as the heel and toe because that was literally all I had left. And I did this other, this must have been a Homespun House. I can't really remember. I think this was an old Homespun House colorway from my advent calendar the year before. Anyway, it's a one-of-a-kind something or other. So they're mismatched, but I think they go together. And I call these the Mars Attacks socks because I knit them while we were watching Mars Attacks. Yeah, I was on a Tim Burton kick because I'm listening to this great podcast called Blank Check, where they essentially watch like a director's whole filmography with the concept of they pick directors like Tim Burton who sort of got written a blank check early on from large success in their career that they had with like breakout films. And then over the course of the rest of their career, they kind of had an uneven sort of library of films in terms of critical reception and or popular reception. And I was always a huge Tim Burton fan, but, you know, obviously disappointed with some of his movies, including many of the recent ones. But it's just this great podcast because they really know their stuff and they just talk about what works and what doesn't. And anyway, I'd never seen Mars Attacks, and it turns out I freaking love it. So we were watching that and I was knitting. Then I decided, so I'm not sure still exactly how big this baby's feet are going to be, of course. And I had knit at some point a sock that's sort of smaller than this recipe. And these recipes are all on my project pages on Ravelry, by the way. I knit a sock that was way too small. It looked crazy small, and it's like really would only fit a preemie, which I've kept as my just-in-case preemie socks. Hopefully we will not need them, and I can always give them as a gift if I know someone who has a preemie baby at some later point. But they were kind of so small, I really wanted to try an in-between pair in case our newborn has feet that are a little bit too small for this recipe. It would be nice to have something that we could put on them, you know, for those first pictures and the kind of like take home moment. To have homemade socks, I think would be really sweet. And I wanted to make sure that there was something that kind of fit all sizes just in case. So I whipped these up. This is also from the Stress Knits Advent Calendar, this really gorgeous minty color with specks of pink, which is very Stacy. And then I decided to knit this pair, which are basically a child or a baby version of my Wildflower and Honeycomb socks. I used also a Stacy Stress Knits Advent Calendar Skein mini, which is this sort of tonal mauve. And then I used the eyelet pattern from the Wildflowers and Honeycomb socks, and I just sort of spaced it around. And I did the same 3x1 rib that's on those, so I will have matching socks with my baby. Slightly different yarn, but mine are also pink. Yeah, so these are pretty girly, I guess, for a boy. I don't know if you'd put eyelet socks on a boy, but I couldn't help it. I think they're cute, so I did that. So yeah, so those are all the socks that I made. I've made some others previously, which I've shared on the show, and at some point, maybe once I've made a slew of things over the summer, I would love to share all of the baby knits / makes if I end up making sewing anything. The jury's out on whether I'll do that. So yeah, look forward to that in the future. So once I finished the socks, I was ready to cast on my Marettimo, my summer garment. And this I have talked about for a long time, my plans. I knit a wispy cardigan at one point out of this beautiful, gosh, why am I blanking? This is why I record with show notes. Sweet Sparrow knits yarn. And for some reason I bought 4 skeins and I only needed 2. I don't know what kind of brain fart happened with that, but basically I had enough that I could make almost another garment. So I knew I wanted to use this as the base for the Marettimo. I have this incredibly beautiful one-of-a-kind Harry Potter club from a homespun house called the Night Bus, which I absolutely love. I have used it for my brioche bandana cowl, and I wanted to use this for the lace in the Marettimo. And then I was thinking I was going to use this bright coral color as the dark contrast that sort of breaks up the bands of lace with the solid body. But as I was looking at it, I decided that something a little bit more muted was going to make the whole thing more wearable and more something that I would probably wear more often, just knowing myself. So although I love the way that the coral looks, it's just a lot of look, and this is something I think I'll wear more often. So I went with it. And this is also a club colorway. This is from Woolberry Fiber Co. And it is something that I used in my Sunset Highway. That was my Gilmore Girls themed sweater. This is called It's Magical, and it's a Gilmore Girls club colorway. So, all those in my beautiful French supply bag, which I absolutely love. And my little pins. And here is my progress. This is a bottom-up fingering weight, knit in the round, seamless, drop shoulder top, very similar to the Tenya, also by Caitlin Hunter. And so you start at the bottom with this little bit of garter stitch in this contrast pop. And then you have your feather and fan lace rows, which are very simple lace. I'm not a huge fan of knitting lace, to be perfectly honest. I just don't love the feeling and the rhythm of decreases, and especially like lots of decreases in a row, the kind of bunching that you need. You know, when you do a feather and fan, you have these like sections of yarn overs, and then you have sections of decreases, and it creates this sort of wave to it, right? Which is very pretty. And it's not like I dislike it, but I almost kind of dislike it. It definitely doesn't have the sort of muscle, you know, I've talked before about like there's like a movement that's just your jam. It's just how you want to dance with your fingers when you knit. And for me, brioche and cables have that, and yarn overs have that, but decreasing really doesn't for me. It just doesn't do it for me. So I don't love knitting lace, and I don't know, jury's out on how much I love wearing it. Like, it depends. There's some lace that I love and some that I don't. But nevertheless, I did have a good time with this. Especially, it was fun to be changing the colors up and just changing up what I was doing so frequently. You know, these are pretty short repeats, and then you change the color, and you change the color again, and you do more lace, and so that was really fun. Now I'm on the plain stockinette part, and I'm bored out of my mind. So I really just need to power through this so that I can get up and do the shaping and the little sleeves. I do think I'm going to omit the bit of lace that's on the sleeves just because I don't love the look of it. Design-wise, I think I would rather just have a little pink sleeve with the with this color on the bind off, and just call it a day and not do another panel of lace on it, even though I love this yarn. I don't know, just design-wise, I just think it would look prettier. So I think that's a modification I'm going to make. And yeah, I really just need to push through this. It's mindless knitting. It's the kind of thing that I can do in social situations, watching movies, whatever the case may be, and I need to do it. So really looking forward to wearing this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't think it's going to be quite as wearable as my Tanya, but it's a similar shape, and it is definitely like, it's almost on the neutral side. You know, it's got that pink, but I think it's going to fit into my wardrobe well, so I'm excited about it. So I want to share a little bit about baby knits. Like I said, I have not been making really firm plans, but I do have some yarn that I think I want to incorporate into some baby knits. So basically, I have this Quince & Co. subscription thingy, which I've shared before, and the one for spring is this cowl, which has this like neat shaping done with short rows, and I don't have anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with this, obviously. I just don't think, I'm just not crazy excited about it. I don't think I'm going to knit it. I am crazy excited about the yarn, and more than anything, I just want to do other things with the yarn that they sent me, which is the main reason why I'm not going to knit this cowl, although it's a perfectly fine cowl. The yarn's gorgeous. So they sent me some Lark in Petal, 3 skeins of Petal, and 1 skein of Maple, which I really, really, really love. I'm so into this color right now. So I'm thinking about, you know, with worsted, you don't get that much bang for your buck if you only have 1 skein. So I'm thinking this might just have to be a baby hat. I don't know. But with 3, I could possibly get a baby garment out of this. And, you know, Petal is kind of a pale pink, but it's also almost neutral enough. I mean, I don't know. I might be able to do something out of that for a boy. I don't know. I might not. It might be a girl. We'll find out. And then they also sent me a skein of Chickadee, which is their sport weight. And this is in the colorway Jasper, which is really lovely. I mean, it's similar to this Maple, but kind of a darker browner. And I'm thinking some kind of hat, something for the baby out of this as well. Ah, it's just so squidgy. And I love these colors. All 3 of these colors are just make my heart sing, as Katie says. And then the other thing I wanted to show you, a couple years ago, I knit a baby garment for a friend who was having a little boy, and we just went over to their house last night to have dinner and hang out with their kids and stuff. And she gave it back to me and said that she had saved it and she wanted me to have it for my baby. So I thought that was so sweet. This is the Tokyo Hoody. It's on my project page if you want to look it up. And so it has this hood. I think I made the 3-month size. And then this just garter stitch detailing with stockinette. It's funny because I immediately noticed some little flaws in it that I cannot remember having noticed before, and it just made me realize, like, I don't know, I feel like I've improved or just become like more precise of a knitter in the last couple years, which is interesting. But yeah, really, really cute and gender neutral, so this will definitely go into the baby's wardrobe. It's the 3-month size, so 3 months is going to be right when spring is starting. So when I knit her the 3-month size, her baby was born in June, so it was kind of to wear as fall started up. So, you know, we'll see. I don't know exactly how much wear our baby will be able to get, but maybe wearing it when it's a little big during the winter, or, you know, maybe we'll have one of those springs where you still really need a sweater on a lot of times in the mornings and stuff like that. I mean, that's kind of what it's been this year. So possibly we will get a lot of wear out of this in spring. But either way, I think it's adorable, and I just love, like, when I knit this, I did not in any way expect that it would come back to me or that it would be essentially the first hand knit baby garment for my baby, which it is because I haven't knit any garments yet. So I just thought that was really, really sweet that she saved that for me, and I'm just so thrilled that I'm going to, that it's going to be in my baby's wardrobe now. So really great. We'll blast from the past. So let's see. Last thing I want to share with you, as I mentioned, are books. And so let's see. First, I'll share the baby books. This is, I think we've probably bought around 25 already. So I'm just going to share 3 with you. This is not an exhaustive list. We actually just went to Half Price yesterday and got a really nice haul of board books at low prices, really great ones, classics and bestsellers and stuff, as you often can find at Half Price books, because those are the ones that people have, and then they get rid of them. So really excited about that. And then we also have some that we've sort of collected over the years, little bit by little bit, before becoming pregnant. So the first one is something we picked up when we were in Portugal in January, so we knew we were about to start trying. And it is in Portuguese, but it's not really important because essentially this is something that you read with a baby, and you can try to pronounce the Portuguese if you like. My Portuguese is not so good. You can also say it in English and really just point at the pictures and ask them questions. But we fell in love with this because it has this really cute little feature. So it's boa nude, I think. Oh, my Portuguese is not good. So anyway, you say goodnight to the moon and to the stars, and they all have their little tree, their little faces that go to sleep. Just really, really cute. I love the tactile. I love the minimalist design, and just the illustrations are so lovely. And yeah, we really liked this. We were looking at baby books at this really awesome Lisbon bookstore that, I'm going to screw this up. I'm pretty sure it is the largest, the oldest continually operating bookstore in the entire world. It might be Europe, but I think it's the whole world. Very old bookstore, and it has always been a bookstore in that building, which is just incredible. And it's really, really a great, excuse me, still got a little bit of allergies. It's really a great store, and we had this bookseller that was helping us out who was just the best. She was really, really sweet and knowledgeable, and she was trying to help us find, a baby book that we could bring back as a souvenir that, we would be able to still use with our English-speaking baby. So we got another one as well that's actually all pictures. That's really cool also. But yeah, so love having a little souvenir from that last special trip before we became pregnant. And then another one that we got back before I got knocked out. Many of you are familiar with my girl Fiona. We're actually going to the zoo later today to see her. Very excited for her to meet the bump for the first time. Not even kidding. I know I sound like an insane person, but I love my girl Fiona. So there are several Fiona books. We have all of them. But I just thought I'd share this one with you. There's some that are photos, and this one is illustrated. And you can see Fiona just learning to be a baby hippo the way that she did, and learning to, grow and playing with bubbles. All these things that we really watched her do while she was growing up. And there's the real Fiona right there. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, Google Fiona the Hippo, recommend, 10 out of 10 stars, and you will get caught up. Basically, she's possibly the best person, I'm going to say person, who's ever lived, and I love her. And then this is one of the books that we picked up at Half Price Books yesterday. So this is a board book version of Madeline. So you may know the original version is not a board book, and it has more words, but this has all the original pictures with slightly reduced, sort of abridged, I guess I would say. Done as a board book so that you can have it for a younger child, which I'm really excited about. We also have the original version of Madeline in the French over there as well, but she'll probably be a little bit older before she's ready for that. So Madeline is one of the books that I grew up with, and I've always been a bit of a Francophile. My grandmother is French Canadian, and I have a French name because of her. One of the names that she recommended to my mother, who wanted to give me a French name to pass on the tradition, and I speak, okay French. Definitely want to help my daughter. See how I'm already thinking daughter, because daughter and or son, child and or children. Definitely want to help them learn French. I think I said daughter because what I was about to say is the name that we do have picked out, that we have already agreed on for a girl, is a French name. I have always known that I would want to give a girl a French name as well. And in fact, Madeline or Madeline is one of the names that I've been thinking about as a middle name also. Although I really also like the idea of an English middle name, so that she can have a French first name, an English middle name, and a German last name, to kind of bring together all of the largest, I guess, like strains of her heritage, or whatever is a better way of saying that. Because my mom's side of the family is mainly Irish and English, and with a little Alsatian, which is French German, and then my dad's side is German and a little Norwegian, and a lot of mixed stuff because the Norwegians came over 13 generations ago. Anyway, and then Ryan is French and German. So I grew up with a French first name and an English middle name as well. Yeah, so I've been kind of thinking about English middle names as well. I just kind of like that idea, but I'm just rambling. Yeah, so Madeline, pass along that love of Paris that I grew up with, so deeply embedded into my core. And then I've also been reading lots of pregnancy and parenting books. I've been reading What to Expect When You're Expecting, following along, which I have to say is, it's fine. It's a tradition. It's been around for generations, and it does have this it's sort of a good encyclopedia for all kinds of questions, but I have to say, in a world where you have the internet, and you have baby apps that help you follow along week for week, I don't think it necessarily adds that much more. I don't love the style in which it's written, and it kind of almost talks down to you a little bit. Like, there are ways in which it doesn't really explain things as much as I'd like them explained. For example, there's like a part where it's talking about how, you definitely shouldn't drink any alcohol at all once you find out you're pregnant, but if you had a bunch of alcohol the night before you found out you're pregnant, don't worry about it, it's fine. And it's like, it's trying to tell you, like, definitely don't drink, but, oh, don't worry if you did drink before you knew you were pregnant. And to me, that just doesn't make any logical sense, and I kind of want them to explain the actual science behind that. Like, what are the effects and what's the evidence, and like, what exactly is going on, because I don't think that it can be true that it's no big deal at all if you binge drank right before you found out you're pregnant, but you definitely can't have a glass of wine the very next day. Like, there's nothing about finding out that means you can now drink. So there's just places like that where I feel like the actual information, there's just a hole there, as if it's more telling you what to do and not why. I really want to know why, because I like information. So that being said, I did find this book called Expecting Better by Emily Oster, which I would hold up right now, but I read it on the Kindle version, which I love because I can go back and search all the time and highlight things and stuff. I did the whole thing on my phone, so I have it with me all the time, and I'm constantly looking things up again. That's actually also where I have What to Expect When You're Expecting. But it's wonderful because basically it's written by this economist, and she really talks you through how, like, the best way to make decisions is to look at the data and then take into account personal preference. And, a lot of the general recommendations for pregnancy and parenting, they just tell everyone to do the same thing exactly, and they don't consider that for some people, the costs benefit balance of those things is not going to always be the same, because people have their own individual preferences. So I really, really like that way of thinking. I like having her to go through with an economist's eye and evaluate the different studies on various different things, whether it's lying on your back or, you know, not eating soft cheeses or whatever, and explaining to you why you're doing it instead of just telling you, just trust me. Explaining to you what the mechanism is that could cause some harm, what the evidence is, looking at studies and comparing the ones with better methodology to the ones with worse methodology, and then really factoring in your individual preference. And it's just an incredibly empowering book. She just released a new one on parenting called Cribsheet. I will try to remember to put all these in the show notes on the group in Ravelry. But anyway, I just read that as well. That's all in parenting, which is a place where there's even less data and even more room for personal preference, I would say. And I think that's very empowering as well. So those books I absolutely recommend to any single person who is or may one day be pregnant or raise children. Just crazy important, like super useful books. And then I just started reading this, which is kind of a similar take, Like a Mother, very cute, cheeky title, and it is a feminist journey through the science and culture of pregnancy. This just came out last year, I think, and basically the author had written this really interesting article on breastfeeding, which kind of went viral, where she shared a lot of the mechanism and sort of interesting stuff behind breastfeeding that most people don't really know about. And essentially it got her a book deal to kind of try to take her approach, her sort of like feminist, looking at the science and really explaining it to the layman sort of approach to the whole thing, from fertility all the way through breastfeeding and beyond. And so I've just started this, but I'm liking it so far. I heard her interviewed on Fresh Air, I think, a while ago, and really enjoyed the interview. So I knew that I wanted to read it when I myself was at that point going through this stuff. So yeah, that's another one would recommend so far, but have just begun. And I guess that's all that I have for you today. Hope that you enjoyed checking in with me and finding out my news and just seeing what's going on over here. It has been great to find the time to sit down and just catch up with you guys on all of that. And I will probably be back here. I'm going to try to be back here in about 4 weeks to do another one before I head out to New England. So hopefully I will have a finished Marettimo to share with you. Let's cross our fingers on that one. That could be a thing. And then some more baby making, both baby making and baby knitting. I will be making both a baby and things for the baby a lot in the future. So gonna keep you updated on that. Okay, so how did you guys like this looser style with no show notes and lots of rambling and self-conscious laughing? Did it work for you? You into it? You want more? Yeah, so thank you so much for tuning in and for your patience as I lay around nauseated and unable to knit, much less record a video about what I had not been knitting. Appreciate that. Appreciate you guys so much, and I will see you next month.